Welcome to SOFE Reimagined 2020. This event is being brought to you by Arts Access, a North Carolina nonprofit dedicated to making the arts accessible to people with disabilities. We are working to make this event accessible to everyone, so we are providing captions and ASL. Each speaker will also add some audio description, which is where we describe visual elements of our presentation so people who are blind or have low vision know more about what we look like. So here's mine. I'm Michelle Davis PETELINZ. I'm a 60s African-American woman wearing a red blouse and a black jacket, and I'm sitting in front of a SOFE Stories backdrop. I am the president of the board of directors of Arts Access. On behalf of the board, I welcome you to SOFE Stories. We're so pleased that you've joined us for the Arts Access celebration of the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. This presentation is part of our 4th annual series of fortunate events, which we nickname SOFE, that showcases and celebrates the talents of people with disabilities. SOFE has been made possible by our generous supporters and sponsors. The North Carolina ADA Network, the Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau, City of Raleigh Office of the Arts, United Arts Council of Wake County, and North Carolina Arts Council. There were many more donors and supporters, and a full list of our wonderful sponsors can be found in our event program, which is linked in the YouTube video. And now, it is my pleasure to present Karen. Karen, go ahead.
Hi, and I'm going to ask Timothy Miles to also unmute himself too. Hello, and happy 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, or ADA for short. You're going to hear us say ADA a lot today. I'm Karen Hamilton. I'm a white female. I'm 60 years old. I have short blonde hair. And I am wearing glasses that have an orange frame and blue shirt. I am with the North Carolina ADA Network, and we are a proud partner of this event today. The North Carolina ADA Network is a project of the North Carolina Council on Developmental Disabilities and state partner of the Southeast ADA Center. This is such an exciting day. On this exact day, July 26, 1990, President George H.W. Bush signed the Americans with Disabilities Act into law. And during the signing, President Bush said, Let the shameful walls of exclusion finally come tumbling down. Today, I'm proud to be joined by Dr. Timothy Miles. As a person with a disability, Timothy has more than 25 years of experience in the disability movement. Welcome, Timothy. And Timothy, would you please describe yourself and then tell us about the purpose of the Americans with Disabilities Act and basically what it covers? Okay.
My apologies.
That's okay. Welcome, Timothy.
I apologize.
No problem.
Okay, I'll try it again.
Okay.
As Karen said, I am Timothy Miles, and I have on a blue shirt, and I'm of mixed race, and I'm wearing glasses, and I'm sitting on a high back chair in my dining room with no snacks. So I can't share anything for the ADA, but happy ADA, and thanks for inviting me. The American with Disabilities Act, as Karen clearly stated, uh, is one of the most comprehensive federal civil rights statutes protecting the rights of people with disabilities. It affects access to employment, state and local government programs and services, and access to places of public accommodation, such as businesses, transportation, and nonprofit services, and also telecommunications. It has 5 titles. Title 1 is employment. Title 2 is state and local governments. Title 3 is public accommodations. Title 4 is telecommunication. And Title 5 is miscellaneous.
Timothy, let's talk a little bit more about what those 5 titles of the law cover and what progress we've made over the past 30 years and things that we still need to do. The first title of the law, or the first section, it covers employment. How has the Americans with Disabilities Act impacted employment? And again, what do we still need to do in that area?
Well, we've seen tremendous change in terms of employers uh, providing accommodations such as job reorganization, equipment such as assistive technology, or changing the work environment, and allowing service animals. And most important is alternative communication formats. But however, the unemployment for our state of North Carolina still reigns at 75% of unemployment amongst people with disabilities in the big picture. But all over the United States, it's very, very high, probably like 80%.
So we still have some work to do as far as moving forward with employment rights. Title II covers, or the second part of the law, or the Americans with Disabilities Act, covers state and local government services and programs. Timothy, can you give an example of how the Americans with Disabilities Act has made a state or local government service more accessible for you or people that you know?
Well, like that job we were talking about, and the more jobs we need, is being able to get to that job. So public transportation. Public transportation has seen changes such as automatic stop announcements, uh, lifts that are flatbed that come out to the ground and allow people with disabilities to use the buses or to use paratransit better. Um, there's so much more I could talk about, but there's still much more to do in terms of state and local governments. Their websites need to be updated and made accessible under 508.
Yes, and there's many transportation really stands out because many we experience fixed route buses and see those lifts that come down, but all services that and programs that state and local governments provide to the public are covered by the Americans with Disabilities Act. Title III covers private businesses such as restaurants or grocery stores or doctor's offices or movie theaters. Anywhere you go to spend your money is covered by the ADA Title III. And Timothy, give us some examples of how the ADA has made private businesses more accessible.
While we see more automatic doors, braille on elevators, and even some cases of elevators that have automated sound, we still need more done in the cash transaction or checking out at the cash register when the I guess the card swipe machine is either too high or you can't access it with your card. And it's about awareness, and the customer can't communicate well with the cashier about us giving them assistance. So it's about communication.
And Timothy, I'm so glad you brought up accessible communication, because many times when we think about accessibility, we think about physical accessibility, such as ramps and accessible parking spaces and accessible doors, but it's so much more than that. And it includes accessible communication, which right now is super important to make sure that our communication is accessible and online and all kinds of ways. So thank you for sharing that. Title IV covers telecommunications. Timothy, can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Again, we have employers and businesses all alike, state and local government, are implementing the use of tele-relay systems and the new 711 system as well. But I think the newest piece I've seen is the use of text messaging systems. But the general education, again, around communication and awareness is where I'm really trying to get at, is making businesses, local, state government officials all aware that it's the law now, and we must be voluntary in terms of a compliance.
And Timothy, as you said, the last title of the law or section of the law are miscellaneous provisions that really just apply to all the sections of the law. But the ADA is a grassroots legislation. What does that mean to you, and what does that call us to do in the future?
I mean, like a ride is a civil right, as I indicated earlier. When we're having decisions made and policies made, we must be at the table, and we must demand to be at the table to share our opinions and our views about what we need before someone decides for us. One good way is to make yourself more aware of what your rights are. A good place to start is the ADA's Southeast Disability Center, which Karen will say some more about in a second. But that was one place I started learning about the Americans with Disabilities Act and my civil rights, because it affects all of us in some kind of way. And now, never more before, even with the pandemic, COVID-19, our ADA is still applicable now. So having a voice and standing up for what is right, we must all come together now in a collective voice.
And Timothy, I'm so glad that you said that we all have to learn more about our rights and more about the Americans with Disabilities Act. And a place to do that is the Southeast ADA Center. That is our regional resource center on the Americans with Disabilities Act. And you can contact them through their website at www.adasoutheast.org. Thank you so much, Timothy, for sharing with us today. And now I'm going to turn over our session today to Jeff, our professional storyteller, and he's going to introduce himself and lead the rest of today's activities. I'll turn it over to you, Jeff.
Well, thank you very much, Karen, and thank you, Dr. Miles. I mean, just listening to you talk about the ADA and the different aspects of it, it's I'm learning things as I've been working on this project. So my name is Jeff Polish, and I am a white male in his 40s. I'm wearing a brown shirt. I have dark brown hair, no facial hair, and I'm sitting in my office, which is where I'm sitting most of my day. It's a pleasure and an honor to be here with you. And, while it was very informative to listen to the comments by Karen and Dr. Miles about the legislation and the ADA, if we really hone in and listen to the stories of the people whose lives are impacted by this legislation, that will bring us closer not only to how the ADA has impacted people in the real world, but also about what it's like for people to live with disabilities within the last 30 years. Stories are meant to be felt. They are shared, they're meant to be felt. We're meant to engage and relate to the people who are telling the stories. Regardless of our own life experience, we can connect to people who are sharing vulnerable and revealing stories. And I was honored to be asked to be a part of this event today. And my work started a little over a month ago, where when I led a workshop on why stories are important and how do we take stories and how do we learn how to structure our own experiences in a way that people can engage with and relate to and derive impact from. And not only did I basically impart my own wisdom of my experience and stories, but the workshop extended into listening to other people share their own stories and giving feedback on that. And it was a really incredible experience. And today we have the privilege of listening to 6 stories that have been developed over the last month. And it's been an honor to at least intersect with these individuals whose stories will be shared today. And I'm excited to present them to you. So we're just going to kick it right off with our first storyteller, and that is Alexander Roa, who I'd love to come in right now with her camera and take it away, Alex. I will step out right now.
All right. So my name, dropped it. So my name is Alexander Roa. I am an origami artist with disability. Right now I am wearing a kind of dark gray shirt. I'm a white male in their mid-20s with brown hair, a goatee, and glasses. And in my hand, I am holding an origami spider at the moment. So that is not too relevant to my stories. Down, and I will get going on the story. So, without further ado, I was born with my umbilical cord wrapped 3 times around my neck. The doctors were able to unwrap the cord quickly, but little did we know at the time the damage was done. Due to this, as I grew up, I never had a normal sleep schedule. In fact, I never had one in the first place. On top of that, I started having these visual hallucinations of a terrifying humanoid figure during the day that scared me so much I would run into walls to escape. I was put on antipsychotics at the early age of 7 after my first hospitalization. Thankfully, the antipsychotics did actually help, but the effect was far from instant. After years of treatment and fighting, I started to feel human, like I wasn't trapped in my mind, but instead, my mind was mine to work with. I didn't start to feel that way completely until years later. Sadly, the struggles were far from over, as my sleep continued to get worse. While the hallucinations had ended at this point, the lack of a sleep schedule never went away, but instead became more and more erratic. By college, I was forcing myself into a normal schedule. This meant I would regularly go weeks with only 10 hours of sleep on average. Therefore, many all-nighters, followed by 3 to 4 hours of sleep other nights for that week. In doing so, I had to go up on my meds, and my body was quite literally falling apart. This made me realize I may not be able to find a job with benefits, and at this rate, a job in the first place. For me, this was a fear of losing everything I fought for up until now. As my psychiatrist warned me, if I ever stopped my meds, the mental bounce back could send me back into psychosis. My meds were far from cheap out of pocket. The fight to keep my meds and all the progress I worked so hard to obtain with them was now on. I needed disability. I had tried to find work, but without knowing when I would be awake, and the inability to force my schedule for extended time periods, among other things, made it impossible to find work. I was also about to age out of my parents' insurance, so time was an issue. We started with the application process for disability. It was long, confusing, and incredibly bureaucratic. By the time I applied, I was exhausted, and I felt a bit put down after going over everything wrong with me. Despite all the gains I had made through life and the hurdles I had overcame, it was suddenly like no one cared. Instead, I had to focus on why I could not work and why I was not functional. On top of it all, I was denied disability in a letter that listed everything wrong with me. And then them saying, yeah, you can work, just stop being lazy. Just not in those exact words. I was told that this was normal and to apply again, in which I was also denied, this was incredibly emotionally taxing. And after many rounds of denial letters, I was given the option to appeal my case in court. At this point, my family was working with a disability lawyer. And after hiring that lawyer and hearing our case, he took us on. However, there was still more to do. We had to pay for independent specialist tests, as the state tests that were done through the disability process were not thorough enough nor accurate. Given the complexity of my case, these specialists did not come cheap, but were going to be needed to present my case. After more testing and evaluations, we were ready for the next step, going before a judge to make a determination. In the hearing, we covered not only all the expert notes as to what was holding me back, but also witness accounts as to why they felt I was disabled. At this point, I was a bit numb to it all. Thankfully, after it, the judge determined I was disabled, and the lawyer very kindly waived his fees. While I am thankful for my disability, and more so the fact that I can continue to afford my meds, the process ended up leaving a very sour taste in my mouth. Without the resources I had, connections and money, to hire all the specialists and doctors that ended up making my case, I highly doubt I would have disability right now, and my situation would be vastly different. I feel like I got here not because of anything more than the fact that I had parents with enough money. My parents may not be rich, but they are by no means poor. Even though I did persevere, fight like hell, had people who cared, and feel like I deserved to live, none of that would have mattered had my parents not had the wealth to spend on doctors and specialists on my behalf. I am like a weird perfect storm. Everything went wrong inside me, yet I had everything go right for me to make it as far as I have. I just wish that there was more for people like me and that it didn't come at such a high cost. And that is my story.
Thanks, Alex. That was incredible. I'm glad your story does have the right, the ending, but you bring up some compelling points about people's access to, their own rights, actually. Well, thank you for that. And now we're going to move on with our next storyteller, Bernard Liles. Bernard, come on in. Hey, Bernard.
Hi.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to duck out. It's good to see you. And tell us your story.
I'm Bernard. I'm wearing a red shirt. I'm an African American. Got like some shaved hair. My story is about how I got a job. I was working. I was at a house called Threshold, and they got me. And it had some programs to use to improve skills. I got They got me a job at Chris House as a mailroom attendant. I loved the job and would like to have it back. A staff member walked me through the course of getting the job. If I had an interview and I went through the building, I get the mail, FedEx, UPS, and US Postal Service. I go through them and put the packages, letters into bins. After that, I take the bins up and place the mail into the incoming mailbox. I take the outgoing mail and then move on to the next room to repeat it. I get to eat the tea for a price. I can still attend the show as well. I have been working there a for I think 2 years. I got hit by a car one night. It was Tuesday, November 2nd, 2011. At that time, and I was walking near the 80, 70, 85 bypass. I had to make it. I never made it to church that night. If I had, I'd make gone to church. Might not have got hit by a car. I wake up in a hospital bed, surrounded by doctors, and they freaked me out. So they decided me. So I woke up this morning. Okay, I had to have 4 surgeries at Dick, then go to Dick Regional Hospital for a 2 weeks stay there. I had 4 surgeries. Um, I had rehab treatments. Treatments were not easy, but I managed to get through them okay. I went to see some of the doctors who worked on me for follow-up care on March 13, 2012. Event Tuesday. I had my last surgery to do a bone graft for my white ego. Soon I can walk again with some more rehab from Trigger Orthopedics, and I was discharged from the doctors, and we have a senior study lost the game ability to walk. I went to the unemployment office and eventually got a new job as adult addiction rejection and unanswered requests. I am now working at the at Home Plate restaurant as a dishwasher. Though I wear many hats there, I seem to see this as a better use of my skills than the mailroom attendant. But I love the people that so much also. I hated the fact that I did not get to go to church tonight, and I mean, maybe I was not getting hit by car, and maybe I will not be where I am at today. I got my brother a job there as well. Claims he doesn't like the job as some at home late, but there are some things I do like about my job. I love washing dishes and throwing bags into a dumpster. I did miss the mailroom attendant job. I'm thankful for the change and I want this to stay like this. My job's okay too. Thank you for this journey here and first thank God for the world here today and all the good job I now possess since February 18, 2015. Furthermore, I also started a job on February 23rd, 15. Thank you.
Thank you, Bernard. Thanks for sharing your experiences about your work. I mean, it's not easy to talk about things that are so vulnerable and revealing, but you brought us into your world, and we're grateful for that. Our next storyteller is Diana Cook. Diana, hey, come on in and share us your story. We're excited to hear it.
Okay, that's not the same sign they showed me before. Oh, before I begin, I'd like you to know that less than a month ago, I lost all hearing. So I don't know if I'm yelling or whispering. So please bear with me. Okay. The year was 1949. Oh, I'm Diana Reed Cook. The year was 1949. I was 11 years old and in a diabetic coma. Doctors told my parents if I lived, it would only be for 23 years at best. As I was coming out of the coma, my relatives were around the bed praying for me. God, let me live. My parents bought a house next to the grade school so they could take care of me. My young years were very rigid and guarded because of diabetes. In high school, I practiced diligently for cheerleading. I knew all the words, jumps, flips. I fairly felt qualified. The instructor called me aside. You're good, but I cannot have a diabetic on the team. My first date with Ted, Mom met him outside to tell him about the symptoms and treatment in case I should get in trouble with diabetes. I came out and promptly passed out. Eddie, one of my favorite dancing buddies, carried chocolate bars in his pants pocket. His mom asked him why he had melted chocolate in his pockets. He said, if Diana's blood sugar gets too low, I need to be prepared. I was not a normal teenager. When I graduated from high school, my dad retired from the Navy and we moved to Detroit. I had always planned on being an RN. The schools we called said, no, we do not accept diabetics in our program. Oh, I sank. I was useless. The endocrinologist I saw asked if I would settle for practical nursing. Of course I would. I became an LPN and worked for 2 years, though I missed a lot of time because of the ups and downs of my diabetes. On my vacation, I went to Paris, France, and became engaged to Army Lieutenant John Cook. His mother disapproved. He might catch my disease, and I would surely be a burden to her son. Love conquered all, and we married. 4 pregnancies followed. Because of the complications of diabetes, only one, my miracle preemie, lived. God blessed us with 2 wonderful daughters through adoption. Support groups and education helped tremendously. Oh boy, I lost my place. After moving here, Kim Tyler introduced me to arts access because I'm a visually impaired artist. This year, I have a painting, a watercolor landscape, hanging at Hadley. What an honor. ADA is a new introduction. He blessed this group with ADA and specialty groups. The point is, we are not alone. We are together, loved, accepted. Now I am an accepted, unlabeled, useful citizen. I thank ADA for this storytelling event and for allowing me to share. God bless us all. Hugs. Love you. Thank you.
Hugs back to you. Thank you, Diana. That was great. So I think it's important. I think it's important to note that as Diana said at the very beginning, she is unable to hear currently, and that being the case, that did not deter Diana from wanting to share her story today. And just to reassure her, I hope she gets this message when I say she was neither shouting nor whispering. We heard her, and we're grateful for her vulnerability today. Next up is a storyteller by the name of Thomas Tripp. Thomas, hey, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Excellent. Well, we're excited to hear your story. Take it away.
Yes, sir. My name is Thomas Tripp. I'm 31 years old, living in Garner, North Carolina. I'm a Black male with a beard and glasses. And the story I'm going to talk about is a reflection of my high school graduation celebration, because it was a pivotal moment in time where I appreciated the teachers and the family and friends who have supported me along the way. And that was not a regular, ordinary party. One may think, well, most kids graduate from high school and have a party, so what's the big deal? The reason for this is I encountered plenty of challenges to reach the goal of graduating from high school and to advance to college. It was so special because my vocabulary was limited to 10 words at the age of 2.5. It was so amazing to think about how far I had come at that point. One time I went to my speech therapist. She asked me to tell the name of the objects on some cards. Surprisingly, I got them all correct. However, once she covered up the words on the cards, I was only to identify the pictures that were in my vocabulary. When my mother had me evaluated, they told her that I had autism, and I had hyperlexia, which was a child's ordinary ability to read at an early age, which contributed to how I was able to correctly identify the pictures on the cards. I enjoyed reading. The more I read, the more my vocabulary enhanced. I developed the habit of typing, which helped me write out my thoughts on the computer. Graduating on my way to college was not an easy task. I had an abundance of challenges throughout my educational background, yet I had a strong support system. Many of them attended my graduation celebration all the way back to my teacher, Mrs. Wade, in the preschool handicap program. I will just mention a few of them who were there to celebrate my achievements. When I started kindergarten, Mrs. Whitty, a regular ed teacher whose class was next door to the self-contained class that I was in, was very upset and told the principal that she wanted me transferred to her class because she understood the teacher's response when I had a meltdown that I was treated unfairly in the classroom. She really cared about me, in addition to being very invested into my strengths. A prime example of this was when I typed up my show and tell each week and read it rather than talk off the cuff. This fascinated the other students that I typed and read my show and tell using words they were unable to spell or read. At a glance, I was able to tell who was absent, thanks to Mrs. Whitty enabling me to take the attendance daily. The following year, she arranged me to go to the first grade teacher named Mrs. Atkins for reading and math. Mrs. Atkins never discussed nor acknowledged my disability. I had plenty of exemplary teachers who supported me along the way, including the late Mrs. Dudley, my special education teacher when I transferred to Wake County Schools in the middle of second grade. She was really invested in helping me make a smooth transition. Then there was Mrs. Rhodes, who instructed me in the reading clinic at North Carolina State when I was in the 5th grade. She continued to keep in contact, being in attendance in several of my IEP meetings to assist my mother in advocating for me. During the conclusion of my 7th grade year, I found out that I was autistic. This helped me find out why I was different. This was when I started having adjustment problems, in addition to feeling socially isolated. This was around the time I started to act tough to fit in with a popular crowd, which would get me in trouble in school and at home. My high school assistant principal named Mr. Weddle understood and looked out for me. When I tried for the football team my junior year and did not make it, he arranged with the coach for me to be a manager. I was able to travel to some away games and was one of their biggest supporters. My high school years were filled with challenges and success, just like life. But at that moment, at my graduation celebration, surrounded by family and friends who supported me, I felt that, like all of the difficulties, were worth it. I'm glad for the American Disabilities Act because it gave me opportunities that people, it not just give me, but people with disabilities, many opportunities that they never experienced before. And they go through so much and they resilient so much, they're able to make the best of whatever comes at them. And I thank my mom for helping me get through this. And I also thank God for helping me make it this far. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas. That was so great. It's so great to hear that story of overcoming and success, but also your willingness and ability to thank the people who helped you along the way. I think that was really special. Thank you very much. And now next up is Ronnie Marshall. Let's welcome Ronnie. Hey, Ronnie.
Good afternoon.
Hey, I'm going to duck out. We're excited to hear your story.
Okay. I'm Ronnie Marshall. I'm an Arts Access board member, and today I'm wearing a white shirt, white male, 40 with a beard and a cool headset, and I am currently relaxing in my electric wheelchair. So I will read my story. Hello, my name is Ronnie. I am an individual with cerebral palsy. I can't drive. For years, when I was younger, friends or family would have to drive me around if I wanted to go out anywhere. Asking people for help is difficult. So I often didn't, and it limited my ability to have the lead house. I don't like to burden people, and I don't like to complain. As a teenager, I started using ADA paratransportation, the law specifies that public transportation services like buses need to provide similar services for people with disabilities or for fixed route transportation. Here's a riddle. How many people does it take to dig a wheelchair out of a ditch? Well, allow me to answer, since I have first-hand experience of this situation. I was on a bus trying to get off, but there wasn't a blended curve that would allow me to allow me a safe exit of the bus. And I ended up in a ditch. It's okay. I was fine, but I couldn't get myself out. One person came to help. That wasn't enough. Another person came. So the answer to the riddle is that it takes 2 or 3 people to dig a wheelchair out of a ditch. Excuse me. Once I was leaving a meeting and called for a cab. When I got outside, I noticed a cab waiting. I approached and asked the driver who he was waiting for. I couldn't understand him. Maybe he couldn't understand me. I don't know. After he left, I waited an hour and called and got angry. I called the cab company and asked, "Where's my ride?" They said he was on his way. A few minutes later, the same cab driver came back. The ADA changed my life and the life of so many others as it relates to our ability to get around outside of the home. I would take the bus to my favorite places like the mall or the movies. You may see me and sometimes hanging out in the food court at Crabtree Valley Mall in Raleigh. I just love to be social. I am married. We wouldn't be able to get as a couple. It gives us the ability to be independent and experience the world around us together. We love going to the mall. She goes to the nail store to get her nails done. I do not. There are still challenges. It's not always easy to get where I need and I want to go. It takes longer time to call and wait. Sometimes you even fall into a ditch or have difficulties understanding. But having accessible transportation gives me more independence, more confidence in what I can do for myself, gives me freedom to go almost anywhere I want to go. And that has helped me overcome, help me become an active community advocate for people with disabilities. And in closing, I want to thank the Arts Access Board and staff and my good buddy Jeff Polish for being patient with me while I deal with internet issues. God bless.
Thank you, Ronnie. That was great. I know you like to go to the nail salon. Don't you know? You said you didn't, but I know. Thank you for that story. That was wonderful. All right, we have one more story left to share, and real excited. Hope you guys have been enjoying the storytelling portion of this event. I love, being able to join you for things like this, and I hope you have gotten something out of it. So let's welcome our next storyteller, Jacob Bridges. Jacob. Hey. All right. Well, you're closing us out, so take it away, sir.
Awesome. Well, thank everyone for being here. My name is Jacob Bridges. I am wearing a black t-shirt, and I have short, thick and wavy hair. And I'm just currently sitting in my room in Chapel Hill. And around me, I just have some music posters and some prayer flags in the background. And the general things that a late 20s white male would have. So, so I'm really excited to be a part of this program. Really excited to be a part of this event, and really excited to share my story with everyone. In 2016, I lost my passion. I spent years of aimless searching, and the weight of defeat made me feel like I would never find it again. And I was passionate about community organizing for local and state political campaigns for over 4 years. Basically politics. I was inspired by the words of the president at the time and felt real historic change was coming. And I wanted to be a part of it. So I followed in his footsteps and became a field organizer in 2012 for his campaign. And in 2016, I got my first field campaign directing a field campaign in California. I couldn't believe that my passion was leading me all the way across the country, but I didn't realize how much was going to change. My day-to-day work went from coordinating communities to seeking endorsements from local clubs and political delegates. We talked about money, gossip about party members, bashing the other side, basically anything but empowering communities. And after the election, all the work dissolved, and the change we were waiting for would just have to wait until the next election cycle. And it was at this point, like, I didn't know what I was going to do. I'm 2,500 miles away from my family and friends. I chose a path that doesn't lead to anything after you lose, and I felt alone without a community to support me. But regardless of how I felt, I realized this doesn't have to be a long-term career. There are other ways to change systems of oppression. So I decided to walk away from politics and open myself up to new experiences, even as they led me off the beaten path. But the confidence felt in my decision quickly dissipated into feeling like a failure. And all I could think about after making that decision, all that was on my mind at that time was, what's next? The next few jobs I had were taken without inspiration. I went from slinging coffee to bartending, sales, working at a really depressing call center, and I had no idea what to do. I didn't have any direction, and I didn't know where to go. In 2019, I got a call from the program manager at AmeriCorps, and she wanted me to interview with a few nonprofits that were directly impacting vulnerable populations. But my first interview did not go so well. I had the passion for the work they were doing, but not the necessary skills that were needed to thrive. After the interview, I thought to myself, great, this is gonna be it again, like another interview that I have where I probably just won't even get it, and I'm gonna have to interview more, and I probably won't get the next one. So what's the point? I felt that frustration for a very long time. I was about to give up and forget about the program, but my second interview was with Alliance of Disability Advocates. When I walked in, I was immediately greeted by an office painted with a light Carolina blue, warm orange, and a yellow and bright green. The shades of the colors are linked to reducing trauma, giving the office a very calming sense. So as I walked in, the executive director and operations director talked to me about the independent living philosophy and the movement that was started by Ed Roberts at the height of the civil rights movement. They talked to me about what a center of independent living is and how centers are written in the framework of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Outside of the executive director's office is an iconic photo of President George H.W. Bush signing the Americans with Disabilities Act, ushering in a wave of inclusive policies throughout the country. Centers of independent living were created to promote independent living using the philosophy that everyone deserves the right to achieve independence. An Alliance takes that philosophy and we meet consumers where they are at. We don't tell them how to live on their own. We ask them what they need to take control of their lives. I never thought I would work with a nonprofit like this because I don't identify with a disability and I wouldn't know what I had to offer. But then I thought about everyone I was close to. I thought about my cousin who was diagnosed with bipolar and schizophrenia. I thought about my dad with type 2 diabetes, recently suffered 2 strokes. I thought about the early days of my mom teaching special education classes when I was young, and I would walk in and see all the kids and would have fun with them. I realized that I was connected to the work of Alliance of Disability Advocates. And I was connected to the Americans with Disabilities Act without realizing it. And after the interview, I got an email offering me the position at Alliance of Disability Advocates. And halfway through my service term, I got a call from my executive director offering me a position with them after my term ends in September. The Alliance of Disabilities Act showed me my passion. It reminded me the real impact change has on people's lives. And it's a lesson I won't forget. Thank you.
Thank you, Jacob. And that's it for our storytelling program. I'd like to thank all of the people who had the courage and the motivation to share their story with you today. I'd like to thank Alexander Roa, Bernard Liles, Diana Cook, Thomas Tripp, Ronnie Marshall, and Jacob Bridges. Thank you all so much for joining us today. And now I'd like to introduce Robert Parrish, who is an Arts Access Board member, to close us out. Robert? Thank you.
Hello, I'm Robert Parrish. I'm a legally blind member of the Arts Access Board of Directors. I'm a African American who has short gray hair. I'm wearing glasses, have on a light purple striped shirt and a dark purple tie. I also have a brown belt, brown pants, and light brown shoes. I hope that you have enjoyed this audio described storytelling event. Hey, welcome to my world. These stories were about triumph, struggle, and how the Americans with Disabilities Act has helped people accomplish goals in spite of. To keep in touch with Arts Access, you can subscribe to our newsletter, or you can follow us on social media. I hope that you will also consider making a donation to the work of Arts Access. To do so, you can follow the link in YouTube. Again, thank you for being a part of this historic ADA event through Arts Access.